Welcome to Not the Code, where we explore the human side of software development. Today we're diving into something that every developer has experienced, but struggles to control. How our simple features somehow transform into complex monsters that haunt our code bases. Here's a scene that might sound familiar. It's 3 a.m. You're sitting in front of your screen, debugging what was supposed to be a straightforward user authentication system. But somehow, over the past 3 months, this simple feature has grown into a 2,000-line monster with 6 layers of abstraction. As you trace through callback after callback, you can't help but laugh at the irony. This all started when someone in a meeting said those fateful words, "Let's make it flexible for future requirements." Sound familiar? If you've been in software development for more than a few months, I guarantee you have your own version of this story. This moment I just described crystallized something I've been thinking about for years. We developers have a complexity addiction, and it's not just hurting our code, it's hurting our teams, our users, and ultimately ourselves. We easily fall into the complexity trap. It's that moment when we mistake complexity for sophistication, when we confuse interesting to build with right for the problem. We get hypnotized by the challenge itself, losing sight of what we're actually trying to solve. I recently gave a talk about simplicity in software development at my company, and the response was telling. Every single developer I spoke with afterward had their own war story. One colleague shared how they spent 6 entire weeks building what they called a flexible configuration system for a feature. The punchline? That feature ended up having exactly 1 configuration in production. 6 weeks of work for a solution that could have been a single environment variable. So why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we consistently over-engineer solutions? First, there's the allure of complexity. There's something genuinely seductive about sophisticated architectures and cutting-edge technologies. We love the intellectual challenge. I've seen projects that use 3 different databases, not because the data actually requires it, but because someone wanted to experiment with different paradigms. The database becomes a playground rather than a tool. Then there's premature generalization. We develop entire frameworks to accommodate every hypothetical scenario we can imagine. We build abstractions upon abstractions, creating systems that anticipate needs that may never materialize. It's like building a mansion when you need a studio apartment just in case you might someday host a wedding. Let's be honest about the third reason. We love writing code. Sometimes our passion for coding overshadows the actual goal of solving real user problems efficiently. We've all been there, implementing that clever algorithm when a simple loop would have done the job perfectly. The code is beautiful, elegant, and completely unnecessary. There's also a fundamental misunderstanding of risk. Developers sometimes build overly complex systems to eliminate every conceivable error scenario. But here's the thing. Businesses often manage risk through pragmatic responses rather than complete prevention. Sometimes the best solution is knowing how to handle the exception, not preventing it entirely. And finally, we over-engineer edge cases. We create complex features specifically tailored for rare or individual user scenarios. Remember that time your team built an entire subsystem for the one customer who needed to export data in a proprietary format they invented? That subsystem probably became one of the hardest parts of your system to maintain. But here's what really matters. Complexity doesn't just slow down our systems, it slows down our people. I've watched talented junior developers lose confidence when faced with overly abstracted code bases. I've seen product managers' eyes glaze over during technical discussions that could have been simple. And I've felt the frustration of customers who just wanted to reset their password but got lost in our sophisticated multi-step verification flow. Every layer of unnecessary complexity we add becomes a barrier between human beings, between developers who need to collaborate, between teams who need to align, and ultimately between us and the people we're trying to serve. Complex code isn't really a technical problem. It's a communication problem. When code is hard to understand, it's because we've failed to communicate clearly with our team, with our future selves, and with anyone who will maintain this system after we're gone. Let me share why choosing simplicity dramatically improves project outcomes. A fellow senior developer told me about a team that inherited a complex event sourcing system for what was essentially a CRUD application. After rewriting it with straightforward database operations, bug reports dropped significantly, and new features started shipping in days instead of weeks. That's the power of appropriate simplicity. Simple systems enable faster delivery. Teams that focus on immediate needs instead of building ultimate flexible solutions often improve their deployment frequency from monthly to weekly. They reduce technical debt, improve agility, and make onboarding new team members much easier. When products need to pivot, teams with simpler architectures adapt in weeks, while teams with complex systems may still be refactoring months later. Despite these clear benefits, achieving simplicity remains challenging. Why? We're problem solvers by nature. Simple solutions can feel too simple, almost insulting to our intelligence. But here's the truth. Finding simple solutions to complex problems is often the hardest challenge of all. There's also immense industry pressure. Every day we're bombarded with articles about new frameworks, architectures, and paradigms. There's pressure to stay current, even when current tools don't fit our actual problems. Saying no is politically difficult. Pushing back against stakeholders who request additional complexity can feel risky. But stakeholders usually appreciate honesty about trade-offs more than we expect. And then there's the illusion of future-proofing. We assume we can predict future needs accurately. But every time we build something for future flexibility, the future tends to go in a completely different direction. So how do we actively cultivate simplicity? Here are practical approaches that work. Follow the KISS principle religiously. Continuously ask yourself, is there a simpler solution available? Make it a team habit to challenge each other with this question. Prioritize core features ruthlessly. Use this simple test. If we removed this feature, would our core users notice in the first week? If the answer is no, you probably don't need it. Iterate based on real feedback, not hypothetical assumptions. Ship the simplest version that could possibly work, then iterate based on actual user behavior. Optimize for deletability. Build modular components that can easily be replaced. The best architectures are like Lego blocks, easy to reconfigure as needs change. And challenge technology choices regularly. That exciting new framework might be perfect for Netflix, but is it right for your team of 3 building an internal dashboard? Schedule regular refactoring. Plan simplification sprints where the only goal is to reduce complexity. And evaluate edge cases critically. Most often, the best solution for rare scenarios is a human one, not a software one. One of the most powerful tools for simplicity is the word no. But it's not about being negative, it's about being focused. When stakeholders request complex features, ask, what problem are we trying to solve? Often you'll discover simpler solutions that better address the underlying need. We frame no as not yet, or let's find a simpler way. This keeps the conversation collaborative while maintaining focus on what truly matters. The benefits of simplicity extend far beyond code. Simple systems create happier teams. When developers spend less time wrestling with accidental complexity, they have more energy for solving real problems. Code reviews become learning experiences instead of archaeological expeditions. Teams that adopt a simplicity-first approach often see their velocity increase, bug counts drop, and team morale improve significantly. Simplicity isn't just a technical choice, it's a cultural one. It requires courage to push back against complexity, wisdom to know when enough is enough, and humility to admit that maybe our users don't need all the bells and whistles we're eager to build. The next time you're about to add another layer of abstraction, take a deep breath, grab another cup of coffee, and ask yourself, what would the simplest solution look like? Your future self and your entire team will thank you. Thanks for listening to Not the Code. Until next time, let's build simpler and let's build better together.